Guys, today we're going to talk about describing integers, and the I can statement we're working on is I can describe integers using positive and negative numbers. So let's get to it. We're going to start this video with, nope, we are not. Hi guys, today we're going to talk about describing integers, and the I can statement we're working on is I can describe situations using positive and negative numbers. And the first few minutes of this video, we're going to spend a little time talking about some of the vocabulary that you're going to hear throughout this entire unit. First is integer, which is also the title of our unit. Accentuate the negative, integers. Positive numbers, negative numbers, opposites, and additive inverse. So let's start with some vocabulary about real numbers. So we're going to start and we're going to make a Venn diagram. It's going to look a little different from what you've seen in the past, but it's still a Venn diagram. There's still going to be overlapping parts, and I want you to draw this into your composition books, into your notes, because we're going to refer back to this graphic throughout the entire unit. So we're going to start with a circle, and we're going to call that circle natural numbers. Now, you know natural numbers. Those are the first numbers you've learned. When you were in preschool, your teacher probably said, let's count to 10. And what did you start with? You started with 1 and said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, natural numbers are the counting numbers. They begin with 1, and they can go on to infinity. You can count forever and ever and ever and never stop, and you'll never hit the end of all of those numbers, those natural numbers. So inside your circle with natural numbers, if you need to write a definition that they're the counting numbers, go for it. But let's put some examples in. I gave you 1, 16, 246. Go ahead, put in 1 or 2 more just to make sure you've got it, and we'll talk about it when you come back and you're done with this video. Now, we're going to move on to the next level of numbers. And to do this, you're going to want to make a larger circle around the natural number circle and call it the whole numbers. And you'll notice that the entire natural number circle is inside the whole number circle. That's because every single natural number also has another name called whole numbers. The best name for the counting numbers are natural numbers, but they also fit a larger group called the whole numbers. So for example, you are 6th graders. You are a specific group of students at our school, but Indian Hill Middle School would be considered like the whole number group. You're part of it. That doesn't change that you're 6th graders, but you're also part of a bigger group. And that's how natural numbers and whole numbers work. So whole numbers are all natural numbers and 0. So if I were taking numbers and putting them in this Venn diagram in the best possible place, the only number that would go in the whole number circle, not the natural number circle, would be 0, because every other whole number is a natural number as well. So the best place for those numbers would be in the natural number circle. Now, integers are going to make up our third circle. And again, notice the entire whole number circle fits inside integers, which means natural numbers and whole numbers are also considered integers. Integers are the set of whole numbers and their opposites. So that's where we have negative numbers now. And we write negative numbers with that little minus sign out in front because it is a negative number. And we're going to talk more about negatives and positives and how we represent them in just a minute. One thing you do need to note about integers, because it's all their whole numbers and their opposites, they don't have fractions or decimals. So if I have a number that is negative that has a fraction in it, like negative 1 1/2 or negative 3 25/100. So those are two examples of numbers that are negative, but they are not, sorry about that, don't know what happened to my pen there. they are not considered integers. They would be considered part of a bigger group, and if you want to, you can label it outside of your Venn diagram. These are called rational numbers. And we are going to discuss those in more detail in our fractions and decimals unit. So we don't need to worry about that so much right now. Let's just focus on our integer circle and how it relates to whole numbers and natural numbers. Okay, so we said that integers are made up of these numbers called positive numbers. Now, those are the numbers you've been dealing with your entire life, your entire math career up until now. If you'll notice on the number line, I put a little plus sign in front of it. That is because we can write positive numbers with the plus sign. But now you've been math students since kindergarten, and so you know that when you write numbers, you don't always put a little plus sign in front of it. That's because if we ever see a number without a plus sign, it is assumed that it is positive. However, all of those numbers that come to the left of 0, you'll notice, one, they count backwards, and we kind of talked about that a little earlier, but they look like they're counting backwards. And they must have that little minus sign. We would call those negative numbers. They're less than 0, and they are always written with a negative sign, that little minus sign right out in front of it. That's not optional. They have to have that minus sign. And that's how we differentiate positive from negatives. Okay? I kind of alluded to this a second ago, but negative numbers, they count backwards, and they're all the numbers on a number line that would come to the left of 0. Positive numbers are all the numbers on the number line that go to the right of 0. And as you are counting numbers on a number line and comparing them, which we'll do later on, we're going to read a number line from left to right. So in this case, all the numbers to the left are going to be smaller. Like -5 is smaller than -3. Think about it. Negative are things that you don't have or maybe you owe. And we'll talk about this a little in a minute here too in this video. But ask yourself, would you rather owe someone $5 or would you rather owe them $3? You'd probably say 3 because that's less money you have to give, because this would represent more of a debt. Now, 0 is in the middle. It divides our number line in half, and it's not going to be considered negative or positive. So opposites are numbers on a number line that have the same distance from 0, but they're on a different side of 0. So that would be numbers like -5 and +5. They have the same digits in them, but one's negative and one's positive. Same thing with -2 and +2. Same distance from 0. They are both 2 units away from 0, but they're on opposite sides. So we would call them opposites. Now, this is important because of a new property we're going to talk about in this unit called additive inverse. And this property simply says that if you add opposites, you're going to get 0. Let's think about it. You owe someone $2, you give them $2, now you owe them $0. I have $5, I'm going to give away $5, and now I have $0. So when we add opposites, we get 0, and we call that the additive inverse property. So let's look at how we talk about integers in real world situations. So we're going to name a positive or negative integer, number or integer, to represent each situation. So for A, and as we go through this section, I'd like you to look in your work in your summary section and jot down, make a list of words that you would use to indicate a positive number, and also write down some words that you would use to indicate negative numbers. So let's look at letter A. A jet climbing to an altitude of 20,000 feet. So if the jet is climbing to an altitude, it's going up in the air to 20,000 feet. So we have to have a reference point, and typically the ground would be our reference point. Things like sea level would be a reference point. Anything above that would be positive, and anything below that would be negative. So a jet climbing at an altitude of 20,000 feet would represent a positive number because we are climbing or rising, keywords, hint, hint, and we would write plus 20,000. Now, again, because it's positive, we don't have to put that plus sign in front of it. We can write it just like this with 20,000, and that would also be okay. B, taking $15 out of the bank. Well, anytime I am taking out or withdrawing from like your bank account, if you go up to the ATM, you have a bank account, you're going to go to the ATM and withdraw money, that number in your bank account is going to decrease. So taking $15 out of the bank would be represented with the integer -15. Let's look at this one. 7 degrees below 0. Well, that's less than 0, and I know any number that's less than 0 is a negative number. Okay, so words like below and less are also words that are going to indicate that we have a negative number. Why don't you give it a try? Try A and B, pause the video, and then press play. Let's see how you did. Okay, 300 feet below sea level. Again, we're using that word below or less. So that's going to give us a negative value, -300. B, a hiker hiking to an altitude of 4,000 feet. Well, they're hiking to an altitude, they're going up 4,000 feet. So climbing or rising, plus 4,000. And again, if you just wrote 4,000, that's okay. Try this one. Pause the video and press play. Let's see how you did. Okay, if I'm spending $34, I'm getting rid of that, right? So I am losing money. I'm decreasing money. I am spending money. More keywords. The integer I would use is -34. All right, so now it's your turn. Take a minute, take this quiz, pause the video, press play when you're done. Let's see how you did. Okay, check the work. Number 1 is +15. Number 2 is -12. Number 3 is 6. Number 4 is +25. And number 5 is 0. We are done with this video. You can go back and watch any part of this video as many times as you'd like to, or you can watch the whole thing. But don't forget to WSQ in your notes, and I can't wait to have a conversation with you.